You ready?
Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another Wednesday Live. I hope you guys are doing well. As usual, tell me where you're from. I want to see where everybody's from tonight. Let's see where we at. I see some Illinois in the house, Homewood, Illinois. Charlotte's in the house. Buffalo's in the house. Go the other way. Montgomery, Alabama. Denver, Colorado's in the house. DMV, Philly. What's up, y'all? What's up? What's up? Maryland's in the house. Georgia's in the house. South Carolina's in the house. Somebody said Harlem World. That's what's up. So we got YouTube and we have Facebook. Everybody here: Greenville, South Carolina, Tampa, ATL, Knoxville, Nashville. I like this, man. I like seeing people from all over. I can't wait till I'm able to travel again to be able to see everybody. Milwaukee, Arizona, Connecticut, Houston. I love it. So tonight, I really don't have like a set topic to talk about tonight. I just wanted to get some feet, have an open dialogue conversation with you guys. I may have a guest or two coming on. We'll see if they make it. Um, and we're gonna go from there. Cali's in the house, Baltimore, Austin, Texas, Melbourne, Florida. Have you guys seen my I went live this morning on Instagram, and a question that I asked people is what are you guys doing outside of real estate? I like to know what other businesses and what other type of endeavors you have outside of real estate. Rochester, New York. Somebody's mad. Somebody's mad at Tesla. Tesla decided to go another way. Yeah. Yeah. Hit that thumbs up like button. Hit that button. Share this on your Facebook, Instagram. So somebody says they're property manager. Somebody does Amazon. Um, Somebody's a nursing student. Somebody's trading stocks, e-commerce and stocks. Somebody does digital marketing. It's always cool to see what you're doing, what's your other hustles, stuff like that. Digital marketing, coding, uh, network architect, and also a volunteer firefighter. Love it. Somebody's a lawn care. Somebody's a salesman for building and selling homes. He says making them rich. Yeah, man, you gotta grind your way up. I understand. Somebody has a juice company, Verizon, aviation tech. That's pretty cool. Biomed tech. Awesome, awesome. When is the next cold call breakdown? We're working on some of that stuff. We're working on putting out some good stuff. Um, One of my guests tonight will be talking about. We can talk about cold call because Vince, one of my business partners, and Justin, also another business partner of mine, would be on tonight, and we can talk about um, some cold call breakdowns. Somebody said they retired off Rikers Island. I hear that. Loan officer. I like that. I like that. Okay. So talking about one of my business partners, it looks like we have Justin in. Let's bring in Justin on that CPT time. Let's bring in Justin, please. What's up, Jess?
What's up, bro?
I can't hear you. Let me get you.
What's up, bro?
There you go. There you go.
What's going
Man,
on,
I'm glad
man?
you could join us. That stream looks crispy.
Yeah, I got the Dave Harding set up.
Okay, okay, I like it. I like it.
I got
Um,
I got the Dave Harding set up, and then my daughter Logan, she did all the background and all the lights.
it looks real good. Is she still doing her YouTube channel?
So that's my 11-year-old. That's Mackenzie. Yeah,
That's
so
right.
she's
That's
got a
right.
YouTube channel. Yeah, Mac Express. And my 14-year-old, she's the one that comes in and helps me with video and stuff like that. I got her running live streams, and
That's good.
so
That's
and she set up all the lighting for this. So
learning early, because I'm gonna tell you what, it's gonna be a necessary thing now and definitely in the future. For most of you guys don't know, Justin, he is like the architect and the brainchild behind a lot of the the products you've seen that we've created. REI Rail and REI Skip. He actually like writes code. That's kind of weird. I read code. He writes it.
it's
I
not
read.
it's not weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, I read code. I can't write it. I can just read it. So Justin, give everybody like a little bit of background on how you are in this real estate field a little bit.
Well, man, I'm probably a little older than hopefully I look. I hope I have that Benjamin Button disease. So, but for real estate, man, I started early. Like I was on your podcast earlier, and I think I talked about how me and my mom, we used to go look at houses on Sundays. We go
Hmm.
look at model homes like Toll Brothers and K Navian and all the builders. So by the time I was 12, I think I knew every single builder, just because my mom. That's what we used to do after church on Sundays. And then later in life, I always had this interest in real estate. So I was the kid that bought the no money down flipping CD set from oh man, why can't I think of his name now?
Carlton Sheets, is it?
Yeah, the Carlton Sheets course.
Yeah.
So I still have the CDs. And
What's
then
the
when I got out
CD?
of
No, I'm just.
huh?
I said, what's the CD again? But I'm just joking. Just joking.
Yeah, the Carlton Sheets. It's like no money down. Um, I'll show it to you. I got it in the garage, and I'll show it to you. But so from there, man, like just always having that interest in real estate, and actually how I got into real estate was mortgages. So before I did anything, I was working, I was coding, a developer for Anderson Consulting, which later became Accenture. And I met a good buddy of mine who was doing mortgages. And I was like, hey, man, teach me about mortgages, because since I tend to be more analytical, I was like, maybe mortgages could be my entryway into real estate.
Hmm.
And so he taught me mortgages, and man, look up about 3 years later, we owned a mortgage company. So it
Wow.
went from doing loans to becoming a broker to becoming a lender, and then becoming VP of a larger correspondent lender, where I ran like underwriting and secondary mortgages, the secondary marketing piece of it, where we sold mortgages to Wall Street and all that. So that's where I started to learn really the essence of the real estate deal. And then from there, I got into hard money, and I actually started lending money.
Hmm.
I started lending other people's money, and then I would even lend my own money for like smaller hard money deals. Then when I learned hard money deals, that's when I really started to understand the structure of a real estate deal, and did a couple commercial real estate deals too. So I got my chops there. Now my business partner and I at the time, who had this mortgage company, we had about 85, close to 100 loan officers working for us.
Hmm.
And then we got into developing our own properties. So we started buying properties around DC, flipping them. We would wholesale some. And then, probably by 2008, 2009, between the mortgages and the flipping I was doing with my business partner, I probably have participated in 500, like almost 1,000 deals, like well over 500, somewhere between 500 and 1,000. I don't know.
Hmm.
But my own personal deals, probably about, 50 plus personal deals that we did in terms of like flipping, rehabbing, that sort of thing, and also wholesaling. And then the crash hit, 2008, 2009, and went back to developing, to coding, and kind of got my feelings hurt. Had a lot of life things going, a lot of life issues going on at the time, and just focused on my family, focused on my daughters, and man, then Vince kind of pulled me back in, like around 2013.
You and Vince went to school together, right?
Yeah, man, we went to UVA, and I was actually his peer advisor. So I was part of this program called the Peer Advisor Program, which was through the House of African American Affairs, and it was an advisor program where older Black students, African American students, would be paired with incoming African American students, and basically teach them the ropes, and just be a resource for them. And I was paired with Vince. And quickly I realized, I was like, well, man, I can't teach you anything. You teach me.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah, it's a smart dude, man. And so, and then from there, man, we just became brothers for life. I mean, just, best friends and brothers for life.
That makes sense. And he should be on the stream later. He's also having a stream later tonight at 9, I believe, right? So like as soon as this ends, he's jumping right into another stream. And I'll let him talk more about that when he comes on. So you and Vince link up, and then what goes on from there?
So Vince, I'd known a little bit about wholesaling, obviously, because I had participated in it. But when I was when I did wholesale deals, it truly was because we just didn't have time for this deal. We had too much going on, and so we were like, let's just wholesale this deal. We didn't actually at the time, back in 2009, 2007, 2008, see it as like a thing to do, and because back then, the stigma was wholesaling was for people who didn't have money. It wasn't seen as like the thing that people wanted to do. And so fast forward 2013, Vince had gone to a Sean Terry course. Now at the time, to a seminar, one of those weekend seminars for Sean Terry. And at the time, Vince was working on Wall Street. I think he was working at Prudential Capital. And he had worked at various, he was doing like mergers and acquisitions. He was doing like big $100 million+ deals. I think like where he was at, they wouldn't look at anything below like 50 million or something. That was a small deal. And so he was learning like these huge merger acquisition strategies, but he was getting burnt out. He was getting tired. And he also had a love for real estate too, because his, just like me learning from my mom, he learned the game and just got the thirst for the game from his dad. And so went to that Sean Terry thing, and then kind of got hip to wholesaling. And next thing you know, this dude's doing like, I'm not going to put his numbers out there, but he started doing major numbers, left his job, and then he would call me and say, "Hey, Just, I need you to build this website for me, or I need you to create a calculator that calculates ARV." And so he, and he knew that I was technical, and he knew that I had a real estate background, specifically the analytical side of real estate, like how to analyze deals. So he would call me and ask questions like, well, what do you think about this? And I would be like, well, back in my underwriting days, we would look at it like that, and so I would take his concepts of what he was learning about how the game was being played today, and then kind of couple that with the analytical underwriting side with the experience that I had running a mortgage operation, doing hard money, and just also having done deals myself. But primarily, flipping and rehabbing. So we kind of had like a merger of the minds, and I would be doing these little tools. So then after a while, Vince was like, "Dude, this wholesaling thing is going to be huge." He was talking about legislation that was coming. Like he was looking at like what was about to happen, like he does. Yeah, like 4 or 5 years down the road. And so he was like, "Man, we should really think about putting these products that you're building together into one thing, and it's something that we could put out there for people." So I was like, all right, well, cool. That sounds like fun. At the same time, I wanted to learn new technologies because at my job, I was kind of pigeonholed. Like I was sort of managing a large group of developers. I was running like a really large project. It was like a $40 million plus project, but I wasn't a coder on the project. I was more of the architect and the guy helping to run the show. I was sort of like the manager. And so I was sort of aching to get my hands dirty again with something that I loved. And I had always promised myself when I left the mortgage industry that I was going to come back to real estate and build something beautiful, because my experience was that the products in real estate and the products in the mortgage industry, they just weren't what I thought was beautiful. I felt like like industries that were overlooked by the bigger companies that were building the big enterprise stuff. So I was like, this is my opportunity to do that. And do it with my brother who I love, and do it with a subject matter that I love. So that's how we started. And the first product we built together was Whoozip, which was basically a dispo platform.
Way ahead of his time.
Yeah, and back then also we built. I believe we built. Now this might be controversial. I believe we I believe we built the first Driving for Dollars app.
You did.
I don't know that there was one that existed prior to us, but we never put it out as like a thing. It just was part of the website. I think the problem with Whoozip was that it did too much. It did so much stuff. So it got traction, but where we really got traction was when I got called by a buddy of mine, a friend of yours, who was, running a larger operation here in the Northern Virginia area.
One of the largest, and maybe at the time, he eventually became, I think, the largest wholesaler.
Correct. Outside of companies like New Western and all that, but
he was a full operation in the sense that he had acquisitions. Acquisitions was from his own marketing efforts.
Right. And so it's funny because I saw him in the gym one day, and he was like, Justin, I'm building, some systems and I need help, and I'm basically losing money. So he was buying so many properties, like he would forget about properties that he even had, and next thing you know, they're losing, 6-figure numbers per month instead of making money. So he was like, man, I'm putting a small team together to try to figure this out. I was like, cool, I'll come in. So I consulted for him. And I said, hey, man, you need to really look at wholesaling. I think you really need to become a wholesaler. And in this conversation that we had in the gym, he was like, isn't wholesaling for people who don't have money? And I was like, I think that's what it used to be in terms of how people perceived it. But honestly, if you look at it, it's probably the smartest thing that you can do, because you've got, he's a master marketer. And he's also the person who I credit, who I really started to understand and really enjoy marketing and like copywriting. I learned that from him. And but what he learned from us was, really how to take his wholesaling practice, how to start a wholesaling practice, how to create technology and a platform around it, because he ended up using the Whoozip platform to really sort of
systematize it.
Right. How to power his business, at least power the disposition aspect of his business to really get his properties out there. And so we were part of that, next thing you know, he's making 7 figures a month. And so there were a couple other people that he had there that were employed there too, really, really smart, intelligent guys. And so it was a fun experience to see how we could kind of play a role in turning the shop around, but also when you put a bunch of bright minds together, what can happen? Because he also had some really, really smart guys working for him as well.
So just talking about like the technology side of wholesaling, I think a lot of people, obviously this is live for people that are watching, but a lot of what happened in wholesaling and really in the real estate investment industry in the last 3 years has leaps and bounds. It's like the iPhone was invented inside the real estate investment industry in the last 3 years. So we went from Palm Pilots to iPhones 3 years ago. For you that's been on the technology side, you can really look at, because you've been in it early before I was, you can really say how much technology has transformed wholesaling to where it levels the playing field. With everybody essentially.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I think, we did a lot of firsts, right? I think we were the first national dispo platform that was geared and designed for wholesalers. It didn't get the traction that we wanted. And then Vince and I were like, well, we need to get on the deal side and on the lead generation side. And that's when we started the first concept around REI Rail started. And then when we sort of brought in the RVM piece, we were like, nobody around, no products were embedding RVM in their products in a way that I felt was beautiful, or in a way that allowed you to schedule it around, busy people who had jobs, with an interface that made sense, that was easy to understand, and all of that. And then that's when, obviously we met you, and then you joined the conversation and was like, we need to kind of put this whole thing together. And this is what you need to do. So you brought that real, resourceful, in the game, what's happening at this very moment, what's the cutting edge that we were able to add into the product at the right time. And so I think, when you talk about like technology and how it's impacted wholesalers, I think a renaissance sort of happened over the last 3 years, as far as when you look at companies like Open Door, you look at companies like Knock, OfferPad, you look at New Western Acquisition, the big boys started paying attention to the wholesaling game, and they started realizing, wait a minute, there's a lot of money here. And then obviously when there's a lot of money, people start to follow and start trying to, and so in order for them to get the upper hand and the competitive edge, they're going to start building technology. And then if they've got billions of dollars in their pocket, well, then how is the little guy going to be able to compete who doesn't have that level of products?
Yeah.
So, our goal was always to give people that enterprise level, multi-million-dollar level software so that they could compete against the big guys. Right. And so it was almost like a race against some of these bigger companies in terms of offering technology so that the local wholesaler could actually compete and stay competitive even against a company like Open Door. And I think that's what we did. I think we were one of the first companies to really, really do that. And then you saw a lot of other companies coming in offering really great technology, because I think just the bar had been raised. And a lot of even a lot of guys who build products now, like they come in and they thank us and they say, you guys really helped raise the bar with this whole technology around, specifically around, the REI world, and thanked us, because these are other guys who were building what I call beautiful products. So guys like Dave over at Deal Machine, Doug and Robert, over at PLM and realestateinvestor.com. Like these guys are building great stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think it's really changed the game. Like you talk about like the big guys coming in, and that's what happens. Anytime you start seeing the small guys start making a lot of noise and a lot of money, you can bet your bottom dollar that that Wall Street money is coming right behind them. And that's right. What these big guys are. Somebody said Open Door was the reason why they quit. And that's not a good reason why you should quit. I know
you need to go ahead and
unquit.
Send unquit. Send a DM to Max, and we can get you competing against them.
Because the real thing is that I know wholesalers that have sold deals to Open Door. And the reason is because Open Door doesn't have a winning model yet. It's going to take them a while to get there.
So one of the things that Vince and I did was we opened up REI Rail community to the world, right? So first it was only if you're an REI Rail member. Now it's you can still join REI Rail community, but we need you to respect our members. If you want to get some of the information that we're giving out, we want you to respect our members. The other thing is too is like if you're going to come in there and ask questions that you can get in Wholesaling Houses Elite, don't come to REI Rail community. Stay in Wholesaling Houses Elite, right?
Or Google,
right? So the REI Rail community is specific around like technology and industry trends and that sort of thing. So if you join REI Rail community every Friday at 1:00, Vince and I, and sometimes Max will come join us. We do what's called office hours, and it's basically us talking about industry trends, technology trends, We keep you abreast of like what Open Door's doing, what OfferPad's doing, what the markets are doing, if there are hedge funds out there who are putting money in this space, because we want to build inroads to all of that. And and I think you've seen some of Max's recent podcasts with. Have you talked to them about venture?
I've in somewhat. I haven't really, Oh my God, this guy. Sorry, there goes the other. There go Kanye.
Kanye's campaign manager.
Man, he had to make.
Man,
you made a late entrance like Kanye, so I'm going to just let that slide. So,
that's right. And if you come in the office hours, you will hear about Kanye's campaign as well, because we talk about that a lot.
I forgot even what I was talking about. This guy.
Hey, look, we do news updates on Kanye's campaign. This Friday, I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about his crying and the tears. And
yeah, you see what my guys did to me in my office yesterday.
Oh, your sound's off, Vince.
Yeah, Vince don't know how to work that. He just got all that.
He got all that equipment, don't know how to work it.
Just because you got an account at B&H don't mean you know what you're doing.
You say nothing about my Alphas Only jacket.
I can't see it because it's cropped.
Oh,
but I was going to hear me now. Yeah, we can hear you now. But when I was getting off the stream, I was going to ask you what kind of jacket you was wearing because it was fresh. But now that you say Alphas Only,
nice and crisp. It's Alphas Only.
Yeah. Hey, scroll back up. There was a question from just real quick right there. The Public Square. I think this is a good panel to be able to ask this question. The Public Square says, will companies try to lobby to push wholesalers out of the game?
Yes. Next question.
Is that from
yeah, I think. Don't you think
that's Kanye's manager right there?
But like seriously, don't you think so? Well, let me say it this way, and then you guys tell me what you think. I think, Max, you have done such an amazing job of giving people access to this business, and other people too. I mean, there's like a whole cohort of you guys who really have led the charge. And the beautiful thing is that people could get into real estate who couldn't have otherwise. The problem is everybody isn't happy about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just say it that way, right? Everybody ain't happy about that. So you better believe there's more regulation coming, and they're going to start finding ways to push people out.
Yeah, I believe they will try. I believe some states have tried. Illinois in particular has tried to implement a law basically because of the Association of Realtors. But if you look at the core principle of what wholesaling is in general, it's going to be hard to dodge so many industries to be able to just attack just one industry. Now, I may be a little crazy, but I think what happens is wholesaling in general and what the concept is and who does it, because banks do it. There's a lot of big money involved on the upper level in the same concept of wholesaling. So I think they're going to have a difficult time trying to axe the industry with a hatchet, and they're going to have to try to dissect it with the little scalpel.
So one thing is, right, like you can probably do legislation pretty quickly to get rid of assignment fees. And if they try to attack, they're going to come after the assignment fees first. Mm-hmm. But you can't attack somebody who actually bought the house and owns it and turns around and sells it.
Unless you're in New York City, where they're going to put down crazy tax.
That's right.
Well, right. So if they put down the crazy tax, but my point is that there's always going to be ways around it, because they're going to put ways to make it harder, but it's going to be difficult for them to make it illegal.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that. I think it's going to be death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll try to make it where it's really difficult for you to participate in that type of business. So they'll change like seasoning and say if you own it less than X amount of days, and you got to pay some additional tax or something like that. But I personally think we're a long ways away before they focus on that end. Where they're going to focus first, where they already are focusing, is on the marketing side, right? So all of you doing SMS text campaigns, all of you doing cold calling, all of you doing RVM. That's where you know, they're going to start focusing and cracking down specifically, I think, on REI because, you know, it's going to hurt anybody who's using those platforms to market their business. But I think the REI world is kind of ushering in legislation in those areas faster.
Yeah, and I think one of the big problems with this whole seasoning period and all of that is because if you try to do that, you're gonna attack a lot of the big people. You're gonna affect a lot of big money.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
I mean, billions and $1 trillion industries with this seasoning period, and I think there's enough lobbies to kind of they're gonna have to try to do this a different way other than the traditional.
Right. And the other reason, so to that exact point, Max, which is why I don't think that it's going to become illegal anytime soon or even owning, because that's essentially what Open Door does. Open Door is funded by billions of dollars. They got lobbyists, I'm sure, that are lobbying all day long down at Capitol Hill. And they've got big money behind them. So
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah, I'm
ahead,
not
Vince.
sure I think it ever becomes illegal. I just think they're gonna, like they do with
Make it harder.
They're just gonna make it harder.
They're going to make it harder, but they'll be shaped around how companies like Open Door transact business.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I think,
I
right?
do think that Chicago is setting a precedent, and Open Door already has this. Open Door is already a broker. They already have their broker's license. So I think that you are going to see more states where, in order to do the business safely, and sort of keep the regulators away from your door, I think a lot more more states are going to require you to get licensed. I think
But
that's
yeah.
I think what that does though is that starts to blur the line of what a licensed representative is to the people
I agree.
of what they represent,
Yeah.
right?
I agree.
Licensed agents and realtors are not investors traditionally,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Yeah.
can't act in dual capacity at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna have this big problem of, well, I was kind of misled, or I didn't have that impression in you, because all realtors marketed is totally geared towards something totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well,
but
it's an interesting point, Max, because you also see a lot of realtors who are now offering to buy your home. If I don't sell it, I'll buy it.
it's funny. I had this conversation. I don't know if it was online or in the office, but when I was a broker back when I was 21, I used to see that where people would say, "We'll sell your house or we'll buy it cash."
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So essentially, they were doing is pass it to somebody that was going to buy it at a discount for whatever. But
Right.
I just don't. I don't
And they're
think.
doing it more now. I mean, it's in direct response to the iBuyers.
That's right.
But
that's why-
that's why I almost feel like we're protected in the sense that you can't kill us without killing them too.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so do we have a name? I just want to address them by name, but whoever asked the question, I don't think it becomes illegal. I think the guys are exactly right. I just think they'll put up barriers to try to keep folks out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was a good question.
Yeah.
And then we'll come up with a way for you not to be pushed out.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
Period. You can't. It's impossible because it's almost the root and the foundation of what America is.
That's right.
And then if you chop this, and this is how you beat the game, is you start playing the same game they play in, and they can't. It's going to be real hard for them to pass legislation against the game that they're already playing and winning at very, very well. Then it's going to be hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the flip, if you think about it, is kind of the foundational transaction in this country. Flip houses, flip paper, flip securities, flip. The flip is kind of the foundation of this economy. And so the notion of you saying to somebody, "Oh, not for you, you can't flip though." I don't think they're ever going to be able to write that into law.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, and another way of saying the same exact thing is wholesaling is the foundation of business.
It is.
I mean, you buy something at a lower price, you sell it at a higher price. You make arbitrage. I mean, that's what grocery stores, everybody does.
Yeah.
And that's why I said it has to attack. You have to start carving it out where you're saying, "Oh, well, we're just going after real estate." Well, let's just go after banks for wholesaling mortgages.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
I mean, you can have a mortgage today, and in a week it's serviced and owned by somebody else.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I think Justin's point earlier, though, is probably the one. If I'm in this audience and I'm trying to figure out what my business plan looks like over the next 6 months, is the one I would pay the most attention to. Is that I think assignment fees, that one I can see them knocking off the books.
Yeah.
You know, I could see where, you know, enough people come out and say, this guy has zero skin in the game. Why should we allow him to flip? A flip means you bought it and you took some risk. This guy had zero risk. I can see an argument for that.
Right. And so on a legislation side, it's a whole lot easier to attack that and say that that looks like a kickback and is a violation of, you know, RESPA versus I actually purchased and owned it for a period of time and then sold it, even if I only owned it for a couple hours. You know,
and that's
so
the reason. That's the reason why in my company now, in Venture Atlas, is where we purchase all our deals.
There you go.
And it's
That's
not just because we have the ability. It's we're kind of getting ourselves future proof, and
That's right.
and then we have an in-house brokerage if we need to go that route too. So there's
that's the new that will be the paradigm. Like that will be how, you know, wholesaling will have to happen. So for the guy or woman who is a wholesale you know, company owner, and they're like, well, I'm just getting started, I don't have the money. Well, they're going to have to partner with companies like Venture Atlas.
Yeah. And somebody, a guy in the truck says, so you double close. No, we don't double close. And I think there's probably an overall overuse of that word. A double close I've never done. No attorney that I've worked with was comfortable doing them, where essentially you fund the A and B transaction with C's money. And so it's on the balance sheet and on their what's the account name, their escrow account, it doesn't add up. So no, it means we actually purchase the property and resell it. And we found some pros and cons to it. There's more fees involved, but that's also why we brought in-house attorneys in our business to cut down on those fees. And then you know, we can sell the property for more money on the MLS right now. So that's kind of been the route we're going.
But to your point, this is another example of them trying to discourage wholesale. This is probably the first shot across the bow, was getting rid of double close, right? Is being able to use excuse me, seize money. And they said, no, you got to have wet funds. You know, and that's been law for a few years now, actually. But they said, we want the guy to actually be able to close. Even if he only owns it for a few hours, he got to close. That was the first, I think, sort of step towards what we're talking about, just making that harder.
I agree. That's good. Kenneth has been asking the same question for a while. We've been seeing you, and you said you're interested in getting into wholesaling. And I would say just do a little bit more research. That's it. You're asking, how do I value home renovations or something like that? Just Google it, or go into Wholesaling Houses Elite and search in that search field, and you'll see that. Or just go watch one of the 300 videos I have. Probably have it in there quite a bit. And I'm not even like,
Right. Yeah.
you know, I'm not trying to jack him, but I'm just saying, like, and I talked about this in an earlier podcast, is that in general, people in general have to change their mindset of being handed something versus being able to go out and find it, because you've typed that question at least 20 times in the chat. And if that becomes your mindset on how you're going to receive information, you'll never make the next step. So I want to untrain you how to stop depending on that question being answered for you to move to the next step, and just go find that answer out there, because it's out there.
And I would tell you, I would actually even go even further in terms of having you do some work to find this answer. What Max gave you is still pretty easy, you know, to go into the group. I would, and I did this early on. If you have, I'm not sure if you're in the business yet, but if you have a deal under contract, or if you ever have occasion to go along with somebody else who has one under contract, go there when the buyers show up. Invariably, it looks like this. Tell me if I'm wrong. There's the money that shows up, which is usually, you know, probably somebody from overseas, and they got on dockers and whatever else, and then they have their GC, and the GC has got on, you know, overalls and what have you, and they're walking through with a clipboard, and the GC is telling them that's going to cost that, and that's going to cost that, and that's going to cost that, and the money is following behind, going, okay, cool. Does this still work? Does this still work? I used to follow behind those pairs. So I would just have them come into the house and just walk behind them quietly. And that's how I learned how much it cost, you know, to install windows, how much, you know, drywall costs, how much it was going to take to do this. Like I literally would just eavesdrop on people as they walk through the house and did that because I had no clue, bro. I literally had no clue. And it's also regional. So the reason I'm saying do this is because the stuff in the group might be for stuff in, you know, the Pacific Northwest. Their prices are completely different. You dig? So you got to know what's
South,
market.
Jersey, and to all those other places.
Yeah.
So I see.
I hope the biggest thing that you learned from that though is really just how to be resourceful.
That's it.
Just, you know, kind of goes back to Max's point. Like you're not going to be handed answers. So in that example, Vince wasn't handed answers, so he just decided to you know follow the people who were successful, right, and solve the problem on his own. And so in business, that's what you're going to have to do.
In life in general, if you want to advance. Vince, I know you have a podcast coming up at 9, so that's like in 14 minutes. Explain what the podcast is and where people can see it.
Yeah. So the show is called Heart of the City, and there's an audio version which you can check out on, you know, iTunes and Spotify and everywhere that you listen to podcasts. But for the last couple of months, like during quarantine, we started doing these live streams. And so those are visible or viewable on Facebook, their watch platform or whatever. So we go live. And, you know, if you're a friend of mine, you can see it on my page. If you just go to the show website, that's public. Anybody can watch that. That's the Heart of the City podcast, Facebook page. And the show, man, is it's definitely real estate related, but it's really anything that's real estate adjacent. So we have people on there who are developers. We have people on there who are fix and flippers, but we also have people on who, you know, own cannabis farms, right? Because you want to talk about, you know, actual real estate, you know, using the land for business. And so that's what we have on today is actually there's a black family out in Seattle, Washington, that has a huge cannabis farm. 3 generations of their family are involved in the business. I just think it's a dope story, you know. It ain't got nothing to do with wholesaling, but I think it's an incredible story. So,
yeah, it's still in the heart of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So I see the question, and I love to get you guys on there, and we'll probably ramble about this until you have to go. COVID-19 is lingering amongst all of us, and most of us that do any research or do any looking can know that the worst is probably still to come, and that there's going to be more financial struggles for a lot of people coming up. So what does that look like? Because both of you were in the finance. I think both of you were in finance and industry at mortgages, and then Wall Street during the last crash, if I'm not mistaken. So what do you see happening with the economy? And this is just projections and just your thoughts and all this. Vince, you read a lot. Justin, I know you read a lot too. Where do you think this will go? Right? Because I have a question. My retail products are flying off the shelf. So banks are still giving loans. There's a huge amount of people unemployed right now. My stock portfolio is going up, makes 0 sense. And we've given out a couple $1 trillion from the government. Where does this take us? But not only where does this take us, how do we and the people watching this live take advantage of one of the largest wealth transfers that is about to happen in modern day history? What happens, and how do we be advantageous to the situation that's happening?
You want to go first, Vince?
I mean, we do this thing called pontificating during office hours every week, and we've talked about different angles on this. You want to give one of those?
Sure. So, you know, absolutely, real estate is flying, like you said, flying off the shelf. Retail products are flying off the shelf. My wife is a realtor. You know, her last listing had 40 showings in like 2 days. And so, when you think about business, it really is always supply and demand, right? When you think about microeconomics, it's just a matter of supply and demand. So when you look at COVID-19, you've got the sellers who were going to put their homes on the market in March, but are nervous to, because now they're like, well, our plans have been squashed. We're not going to move anymore. Okay. So now you've got decreasing inventory, but you now also have the same amount of people who want to move potentially. Maybe they've, due to COVID, have decided, I'm going to sort of put my plans off. So the number of people who've put their plans off on the buyer and seller side are roughly equal to this ratio wise as to what it was prior to pre-pandemic, right? Now, if you add to that the number of people who now want to move out of the city because of fear of living in close proximity to people, I no longer want to live in an apartment building where the ventilation system is is shared, or I'm a young family with two kids and my kids are cooped up all day. Now I want a backyard for them to play in. If I'm going to be quarantined, I want to have, options in my own house where I'm not bored and my children aren't bored. So what you're seeing now is sort of a flight from the cities to suburbs. And so if you're purchasing property specifically in suburban neighborhoods, you're going to see a really, 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 high pressure in terms of buying because of the lack of inventory. Right. And so the ratio of buyer to sellers hasn't changed. The people who would typically be in the market. Now you've add on top of it these people who are trying to get out of the city and into the suburbs. Now you're not going to see that same type of retail pressure, I think, in the cities. You're going to start seeing that transition is happening, kind of like what happened in Atlanta, 10, 15 years ago. So I think that's what you are experiencing, because I think the majority of the properties that you're buying in are in those neighborhoods. And then we can kind of get into the economic side of it, which is, well, who are the people who are buying these homes and the houses that are sort of flying off of the market? Who's the type of buyer? What type of jobs do they typically have? Where are they economically? And who's hardest hit by COVID-19? So the people who are hardest hit by COVID-19, are they homeowners? Are they home buyers? Would they have been in the market? Right. And so research will kind of show you that a lot of the folks who have been hardest hit, unfortunately, are the people who are renters. Yeah. Right. And so that's why you see the declining number in, as far as rents that have been paid over the past X amount of months since the pandemic hit. So the folks who really need to be concerned are really obviously the landlords, and then large, shops who own multiple residential properties with a large number of tenants. So you might start to see some things there. So right now we're in a good phase. Then Vince can kind of get into why your stock portfolio is going, because we also last week talked about, why mortgage rates are so low and how that's impacting confidence in the market. But it's not like it was in 2008, 2009, because that's when the market truly was sick. But what I do think right here is some of this legislation is causing a correction, or is mitigating what we should be experiencing. But what's going to end up happening is there will be a correction at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's going to have to be.
Yeah. I'd agree with all that. I would just sort of echo all of that. I think there's a real thesis around suburbs. I believe in it very, very strongly. So if you live in a New York or in Atlanta or at DC, I'd be looking at the halo 15, 20 miles around that major metropolis. And I'd be buying there. I'd be wholesaling there. I'd be looking for opportunities because people are screaming out of the cities and going to those suburbs. I believe the single family rental market is going to do fantastic for all the reasons that Justin said. People need space. If you are in a position to do it, I really like the build to rent model right now. Seriously, I think build to rent makes all the sense in the world. Oh, sorry, that was Max's secret. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do build to rent. No, I like it a lot, man. For all the reasons that we've discussed, we're becoming a nation of renters. And people do want that space, but people do want something that feels like a their own home. So I like that thesis very much. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're liquid, my stock portfolio is way up too, and Like I'm happy about it, but it is a little bit of a double-edged sword because
You know it's coming down.
it's definitely going to come down. Thankfully, so this is what I would say about securities. Right now, I would only be buying stuff that you plan to give to your kids, right? So I'm buying really high quality stocks that pay dividends, that I probably was going to buy anyway, and I just got them on sale back in March and April. And if they do take when they do take a dip, when the second wave gets crazy, it won't hurt me too bad because I wasn't planning on selling them anyway.
So Vince, one thing that you and I talked about this. One thing that I did to hedge is I started buying EFTs that are based in currencies where they responded to COVID-19 very well.
Yeah, which is smart, which is a nice hedge, and we could have a currency and inflation conversation. That's probably a whole podcast right there. But yeah, I think that there are some very tough macro inflation currency things that are coming down the pike that quite frankly scare the. Can I cuss on your podcast? I cuss on my podcast. I won't cuss on your podcast.
You better talk
You don't cuss on office hours.
I don't cuss on office hours
because he's with Pastor Justin.
Because I'm with Pastor Justin. Exactly right. But some things that scare the crap out of me. But yeah, man. I mean, that's my general thought. When it comes to real estate, I like the suburbs. I like build to rent. I like single family. And on the security side, buy stuff that you were going to buy anyway. I did not buy Amazon even in March and April because I didn't like the multiples even then. I hate them now. And I love Amazon as a business. But I just, I'm not going to pay 100 times earnings. I'm just not going to do that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's interesting. Hey, I still got 50% of my portfolio liquid, waiting for another dip. Is that smart? I mean, I could ask you in a personal phone call, but
yeah, I'm probably 25% still in cash, just sitting.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, there you have it. But the idea behind all of this is to become proficient in your craft, which is learning how to identify problems and learning how to fix them. That's what we do as wholesalers all together. So once you learn, you can go back and watch a couple of videos on how I talk about it. What I would do is get real good at this and don't get scared, and it's coming. I had a conversation with some of my friends today. He spent the day with me and he was like, hey, why we don't just keep this as a rental? I said, because we can get this probably about 30% less in about a few months. Let's just wait. Let's just flip. While flipping's good.
One thing that I love about the whole game is you learn how to negotiate products at a discount. So no matter the market, if you've got that skill, you're always going to be able to make money.
That's right.
You're going to be good to go.
Right? As long as the real estate market doesn't go completely to pot, which I don't believe it is.
No.
And so there's a lot of analysts who also say, we don't think that there's going to be a huge hit to the market. The most aggressive I've seen is like 7 to 8%, decline in the real estate market. That doesn't affect wholesalers because people are still buying and selling.
Yep.
I do feel bad for commercial. If you're doing commercial.
Yeah, I mean, commercial is going to get rocked.
Especially Class A office. Sorry.
Yeah. Commercial is going to get rocked, which means there's going to be even more big money, offshore big money, buying United States single residential properties.
Yeah. Build to rent, an entire development.
Oh, there you go. See, I didn't even know that. Seriously, I just really believe in that thesis. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Build 100 houses off for rent. Look, guys, I know in the sake of time, Vince, you got to go. I'm going to tune into your podcast as well. You got 1 minute to get there. Don't be late like you were late here and everything.
My bad.
Tell Kanye I said, what's up, Justin?
I was talking Kanye off the ledge, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, hey, I'm surprised you made it then. But Justin, I appreciate you guys. We just put their IG in right there. So that didn't show up well. Anyways, I'll make sure in the notes, the replay of this, that we're going to put their Instagram on there. Justin's not that active. Vince is getting better, but Justin will get better as time comes. I appreciate you. Love you guys both.
Instagram?
Exactly. Yeah. And I'll be tuning into Vince's podcast. So make sure I'm going to share it on the Wholesaling Houses Elite page as well. I appreciate y'all. Sorry I had to cut it short.
Appreciate you.
I'll see you guys on the flip.
Appreciate y'all.
Peace.